Hey guys, it's me again for the third time in this week. So yeah, hope you haven't gotten sick of me yet. But yeah, we've got plenty to talk about. The plan originally was getting Gainsey on, and he agreed to coming on, but yeah, he for some reason killed his microphone, so he couldn't make it. So it's just gonna be me today. Um, And yeah, I'm pretty exhausted. Been climbing all day because a friend of mine needed some company, and yeah, we'll see how today goes, but we'll try our best. So yeah, thanks for showing up on a Friday evening. Before we start, big shout out to Bybit. They're paying us to do this live stream thing, and I really appreciate it because I mean I like doing the live streams, and it's even better when you get paid for it. So big shout out to Bybit. They are hosting a trading competition right now. If you want to check that out, either click on the link in the description, see if you like that kind of trading competition, whatever, or check my Twitter. I have like a team link where you can actually join up in my team, where we just degen around. I think it starts in a few days. So yeah, we'll see how that goes. But that's in the near future, where we're gonna trade some low time frames together in the competition. See if we get liquidated or not. Hello Duck, how you doing? Good. I literally came back home like 20 minutes ago, and it's like 35 degrees out. I don't know what that is in freedom units, but it's pretty hot. So yeah, I've been climbing all day in like mega heat. So yeah, pretty exhausted, but we'll get there. Thank you so much for your effort every week. Glad you're better. You give me confidence in trading. Thanks again. I mean, I'm very happy to hear that, bro. Very happy to hear that. So yeah, I think we're gonna talk about Bitcoin a lot this stream, just because I mean it makes sense. We've had somewhat of a big move today, after the candle closed yesterday, which was pretty bad. I can go into why it was bad in a second, but I think we start big time frames as usual. Monthly, still nothing going on. If you really want to be like long term or like mid-term bearish, you would have to lose the support, right? Until that support is lost, all is good in the world. Bulls can rejoice. If it gets lost, I think we go to 7 and might even wick down to 6, whatever. So yeah, if we close below like 10 on the monthly, which is in 24 days, I think we go much lower. If we don't, probably not, right? So yeah, that's going to be interesting to watch, but it's pretty far away. And it makes more sense to be bullish based on this because it's breakout. But like I said, if it closes back below, that's a massive red flag. So you wouldn't want to see that. So that's the one thing to watch out for monthly. You have this as support, the 10K area, as long as that holds. Makes sense to target 14K. If it doesn't hold, I think it makes sense to target like 7 or even like in the 6s here, down here. But no need to talk about it until it fails, at least on this time frame, right? Weekly time frame, a little bit more interesting. So what we have here is a breakout, like if you guys remember, took liquidity of these wicks up here. I mean, way back, like I think 3 weeks back, I explained my strategy in trading this. Didn't necessarily trade it the best way. I said, if it breaks to the upside, we're going to take out 10.5 and then you want to be big short. That was the plan, like longing the breakout and then shorting above 10.5. Instead, I kind of fucked it up. But that's still my gut feeling, like any breakout above here, it's probably going to be distribution and then down. But until we close below 10.5, that is just like fantasy, right? As soon as we close above below 10.6, I think it makes sense to prepare for that case, for that distribution case. But until we do, makes sense to kind of, like, if you're bullish, just stay bullish. But yeah, my gut tells me this is probably shakeout before we go lower. Does that mean it has to be one? No. And I think if you really want to be like cautious, makes sense to wait for the 10-6 break, because then you would have this kind of bad situation, and then you can even short in the 9s, I think, all the way down to 7. So I mean, I think that makes a lot of sense to just stay, like, if you're bullish, just stay bullish, or if you're bearish, just be like, have a tight invalidation, and then see if we close below 10.6, and if we do, get more aggressive on the short side. Yeah, I think that's pretty much it, really. There's nothing much to say about this. TA is still bullish. Like, this is a breakout based, like, if you're just watching TA, it's a breakout, still nothing bearish about this. As soon as it does close below 10.6, it would be bearish, but it hasn't yet, so all is good in that world as well. And the daily time frame, what we did on the daily, and this is something that happens a lot with Bitcoin, and we'll talk about this a little bit more after I'm done explaining what I'm talking about. But this is something that happens a lot in crypto, where you get like a big move up, consolidation, and then this kind of thing where it starts arcing up again into one red candle that goes pretty low, and then you walk back up and you start making a lower high, right? For example, if you want to see something similar like this, and where it usually goes is just the daily close. That's why I have this green line here. That was what I was looking at for like the upside. I mean, in this case, it didn't quite make it, but very close. And then, I mean, that's pretty much how Bitcoin likes to top out, right? So that's something to keep in mind of. You have this daily close at the top, right? You get this vertical move, and then you retest it. And I mean, this could even retest that same area again. So go here, go back up there, and then maybe go down. But that's something to keep in mind. It doesn't have to be bearish. Like I said, it has to take out 11K, I think, to be confirmed bearish. If it does, I think you can target lower, or at least like expect it to swing lower, even if it bounces lower. Like, for example, in this case, where you took out, Jesus, that's the worst line I've ever drawn. Where it took out the low, right? This middle low here, went below and then went above again. But generally speaking, I would expect lower if it goes at any point below 11K. So I'm gonna prepare to short bigger if it breaks 11K. If it doesn't, we're still good on the bull side, right? So that's kind of my plan in general. Like I said, this is something to watch. Like, if you get like consecutive bearish candles after this, could be like a short-term top anyway. And then if it does close or like go back into 10Ks, I think that's a longer-term top. But until it does, this is just bear cope. Still, like, this is still a bullish chart, right? And you have some support in here. Like, this is no support. Wouldn't necessarily bid this again, but this is no support down here. And as long as that holds, it's fine. And you really don't want to see it close below this, because then what happens then, like if it starts closing below here, and this is why I wouldn't want to bid it anymore, is you have support in this area, right? So if we start closing there or below it, we failed this support, and then if it starts closing below this, we failed two supports, and that's something you don't want to see in a bull trend. Like, usually you can fail one support, but you don't want to fail two. So in a move up, oftentimes, like, you get a consolidation in here, and then you move up, and that pullback can take out that support here and still be bullish, right? But if there's like any consolidation on the way here and it just takes out that consolidation as well, what often happens is it rallies into this and then goes back down, right? So in this case, like, if it closes back below here, very likely it finds resistance in this area and then just goes further down. But like I said, nothing too terrible yet. It's just how I look at the market. Like if I want to get like really big short, that would have to happen for me to kind of position that way. No need to get over eager as a bear, right? Because realistically, we've been going up, and if you want to short, gotta be careful to not overexpose anyway. Okay, is that clear, or did I skip something? Because like today, I mean, this week's been pretty wild. I've not been on my A game pretty much the entire week, so do ask questions if I'm like talking nonsense. Clear enough? I mean, that's good to hear. That's good to hear. I remember you was talking like if we close above Rex, I don't know what you mean with Rex, on weekly, then it's bullish and it makes sense to long the retest like 10.5. Now we are bearish, we close below 11. Yeah, I mean, that's, when I said that, right, we didn't have this support retested or whatever. So in this case, right, if you're looking at the weekly and you're like, okay, we closed the monthly above support, right? And we closed the weekly above support. So you can buy any kind of dip into that area, into the 10.5 area. And that's still completely fine, right? That's still valid advice, which I gave like, I don't know, a week or two ago, where I said, if you're bullish, you can buy these supports, right? What you don't want to see, like this could easily dip into here. And then if it closes back above here in this area, completely fine. That would actually be bullish, right? If you get like a massive shakeout wick and then close back above here, that'd be bullish. What you don't want to see start happening is low time frame invalidation of a bull trend, right? So I mean, you're completely fine with buying 10.5, and I still think that's valid advice. But you wouldn't want to have this turn into resistance, because that would be the first sign of it being bearish. Wouldn't necessarily make this entire thing bearish. It's just enough for me to, like I said, I said this when we were down here, that I think it was down here, that if it goes up, I'm expecting this to be like any move above 10.5 to be distribution, right? And I'm still expecting that. The chart tells me as long as we hold this on a closing basis, we're completely fine. So you can play it however you like, right? Like if you're mega bullish, I think a 10k dip is really nice to buy. If you're mega bullish, I think a 10.6 like dip into here is completely fine to buy. But I think it gets problematic on the daily time frame if you start closing below these supports, because then you would have actual resistance, and that would kind of make the case for my distribution argument that I made like weeks ago a little bit stronger. But you can play it however you like. It's just my plan, right? And I could be completely wrong. I'm not saying this is bearish right now, because it's not. Like the weekly closed above resistance, the monthly closed above resistance, the daily closed above resistance. So this is completely fine still, right? I'm saying like if you're losing support on the daily, you're probably going to lose support on the weekly, and then you're probably going to lose monthly support. If that doesn't happen, I mean, yeah. So, yeah. But I mean, like that's the thing, right? It all depends on what your plans are, right? My plan, like literally from this consolidation was, and I mean, you can go back like 3 weeks or something where I made this really clear, that if it dips below here, I'm gonna be a buyer and then target high, like above like 12, 13, 14K. And if it rallies from there, I wanna be a seller and then target 6K. Literally like, I mean, for the people that have watched it, they should remember, right? I made this, like, I expected that to play out. Didn't really long the breakout like I wanted to, but that was my plan, right? So that's why I'm looking at like low time frames to see if it's gonna play out. Because if you're waiting for the weekly time frame, which is completely fine too, right? If you're waiting for the weekly time frame to close below here, and then maybe even below here to get full confirmation, you might be starting to short like at 8.5 if that happens. And then, I mean, that's fine and good, right? But it could easily rally back to 9.5. Where do you have your like stop loss? because you're targeting down here. So if you enter down here, it's not really the best trade. So I mean, I'm trying to kind of play my gut feeling with like daily time frame support, as in, okay, if we lose the support area, I think my idea is valid. But I mean, you don't have to, right? And like I said, as long as the weekly time frames hold, it's bullish still. So it's just, this is an early warning sign, and that'd be enough for me to jump the gun. Skipping Juventus versus Lyon to watch Lord Donald. I mean, I appreciate that, man. Not gonna be too good, too like. I've even forgot the word for it. Eloquent today, because I literally didn't sleep. I think I slept like three hours or something, because friend had some woman issues and came by at like 4 o'clock in the night. So yeah, it's been a wild day. And then done that, and then went climbing like straight after. So excuse myself if I'm rambling or not making any sense. When will you long here? 10.6. I mean, I'm not gonna long. I don't feel like it. I don't think the global kind of situation makes much sense for me to kind of chase this. I'm like, generally speaking, longing above 10k hasn't been a good idea in the history of Bitcoin. Besides, like, pretty much the first time we went there, and even then, like, we were up there for like a few days. So I'm not gonna. Could be a mistake. Like, we could be going to 14k. It's just not something I'm gonna FOMO into. And I mean, I could be completely wrong, right? It's just, I much rather be careful, just chill on the sidelines above 10k and then see what's up. In general, the reason why I can be so chill, and I mean, this could be like something that has changed too, but in general, in the Bitcoin uptrends, we've had these massive shakeouts, and I'm more than comfortable waiting for these. Like, let's say this goes to 16k, right? Or like 17k. At some point, you're gonna get a shakeout because people are gonna get like way too excited, and then you get these 40% dumps. Maybe this time it's just like 30% dump, but like Bitcoin's historically done those 40% dumps pretty well. So even if it goes to 16k and it dumps by 40%, I can still buy at like 9.8, whatever, if I want to. So I'm pretty chill no matter what happens. Like, if it goes like a shitload up, would be completely fine by me, because like I said, like, you get a second buy in Bitcoin like pretty much all the time. And if I don't, then I just long the next setup or like look for something else. Depends on how you're kind of trading this, right? If you feel like you're reliant to catch every move, probably not your trading style. For me, it's always paid off to just be relaxed and just wait for an opportunity, because in crypto in general, you get a lot of opportunities, in my opinion. If this is the last one, tough luck, right? Sometimes that happens. Same was said to me at 10.5 when I was shorting that. People were like, okay, but what if it goes like to the moon? And I was like, okay, yeah, I'm just not gonna gamble on that. And then it dumped. I mean, this doesn't have to dump, but for me, it's always paid off to kind of take my time, see how it goes. Where's Cred? He's getting all incentives for your YouTube streams. I mean, Cred's on holiday, which he deserves. He's been working hard, so yeah. He's just taking a week off. He's gonna be back on Monday, and I mean, the best part about all of this is that I can now go on holiday without having a bad feeling. So probably gonna leave in September for like 2 or 3 weeks even, and yeah, might stream like from the middle of nowhere in Spain or something. We'll see, but not too often. So he'll have to handle it in September. That's the good part about this entire setup. It doesn't have to be me or him. It just has to be one of us, which makes life easier. Do you play options? No, not really. Everyone that's smart enough to play options that I know has been telling me to stay away. So, I mean, I've looked at them, I've researched them, and then I've decided that for now it's not something I want to implement. But it's definitely interesting. I think it would actually suit my trading style pretty well, but just not, haven't had the energy to look into it pretty much. Okay, so that's Bitcoin, right? We talked about Bitcoin. Low time frame, this is the daily level that we got rejected by, right? What you should be looking at low time frame, I think, and this is just convenient, looks like hindsight, so whatever. We can ignore this because it looks too good. But we can even use this as a range high, right? Say this is the range high. So dipped into the old range high. So nothing to panic about yet. Something that you don't want to see is price just bounce in here, maybe go like down here, right? Retest that area and then go down back into the trading range, because then it's very likely that we actually just have another leg, take out the low maybe. And I mean, like, I think it was Invoker that asked, but like Invoker said, like 10.5, and it might be bullish, whatever. If we take that low and then giga rally in the same day, that actually not be too terrible, right? Then we'd still close the daily above support, that'd still be fine. So yeah, it's something to watch out for. I think this is not too bearish. This is a typical Bitcoin topping pattern, in my opinion. But even those topping patterns in Bitcoin, even if you look at like this, so you have this, you have this move up, this one, after a big move, this one, right? And then you have this sharp sell-off into another move up, right? So this is very similar. And in this case, it just retested here, retested again, consolidated into it, and then went up. So this could easily do something like go back in here, maybe like the moment it starts taking out that high, and then just go sideways and then go back up, right? Still very possible. I would just, for the bulls, like the bulls hope that this doesn't get taken out for too long anyway. But yeah, so far nothing too terrible. In a bull trend, these topping patterns, less reliable, but still could very well be, I think this could be the top. But doesn't have to be. And I think the moment it gets confirmed this is the top is when the weekly closes back below 10.6. Don't do you part-time crypto trade, and do you have another job? Just a fan asking. No, I've been full-time trading crypto since early 17. So this has been my job for the last 3 years, if you can call it a job, because it's really just like a hobby that makes me money. I mean, I enjoy trading this, so I mean, I'm just very lucky to be able to do it full-time. Have been for a long time. I mean, I could see myself do something else in 10 years, something that actually, because this is actually a discussion that I've had with a couple of friends, I think a week ago. As a trader, we don't really add anything to society. What we're doing is just leeching off the market, if you're like super blunt about it. So, I mean, what I've been doing for the last 3 years is taking from the market and then not providing anything really, like, other than being a nice, like, at least trying to be a nice human being and helping people out in need, like my brother, for example, that's been struggling. But other than that, like, it's pretty much a job where you leech from the market, right? You're not really providing any real value. So I could see myself do something else, like full-time in like 10, 15 years, just as a hobby, right? And then just trade on the side. But until then, I mean, it's just too much fun not to do. So I'll keep on doing it. So yeah, that's kind of like how I see it anyways. I don't know if you guys see it differently. It'd be an interesting discussion to have. Like if you have any strong views, do comment on it. But that's kind of my view on it anyway. What about mental health, about not having a real job to the rest of the world and society? I mean, I've been doing this so long, right? Like my family doesn't really like, I mean, it depends, right? If you do it unsuccessfully, right, and you can't live off of it, the people are obviously gonna be criticizing you. But I mean, if you can kind of pay for everything that you need and then even take care of your family, which I've been doing for the last 3 years, I mean, people look at it differently, right? So for my friends and my family and people that I meet too, like I'm pretty open person. I mean, so far I've not been criticized by anyone really, but that might just be because the Germans are like, they see finance and they're like, oh shit, this guy is actually really cool because he does something really boring for a job. I don't fucking know, but so far it's not been bad. Okay, but that's Bitcoin, and we've gone over some other stuff. I don't want to bore you too much. I mean, it is Friday, so I mean, Friday is, we just do random shit, right? But yeah, let's talk about ETH. So ETH USD, right? There's actually, if you're looking at a closing basis, right? And I mean, if you've been reading the newsletter, and if you haven't, shame on you, right? But if you have read the newsletter, Cred and I were pretty like expecting, as long as this held, right, expecting a move up. Didn't expect it to go this high. And I mean, I was looking at the monthly resistance here and expected to get something there, but we really didn't, right? So we just smashed that through. That's a good sign. One thing that gets me a little worried is that we're getting rejected just above it. So something that you don't want to see in like ranges is a breakout and then run into resistance up there and then fall back into the range, right? I'm not saying that's going to happen here. We're at resistance and we could get a pullback. And you really, really, like as a bull, you really want to get it bought at 285 in this area, right? The moment it starts falling back in the range, that'd be really, really bearish, I think. So just hope that doesn't happen. But until it does, this is a bullish chart, right? You've had a range breakout. My feeling is probably going to get rejected by this resistance just because it's a massive resistance. It's pretty much like you've had the bear market low. This was the bear market low, the first one. Then you've had the first strong bounce off of the support that led to the next big leg. So this is just, for now, this is just a bearish retest, right? If you're just looking at it from that kind of time frame, you've had the breakdown of this bull trend, and now we've retested it. Generally speaking, this is a long time, so it doesn't have to be considered a bearish retest. Like I don't think you have to be mega bearish, even though like the high time frame trend's been down. You've after all made like a higher high here, right? So you don't have to be mega bearish just because it could be a bearish retest. I think the moment you get mega bearish, and you should be getting mega bearish, is if this is lost. And I mean, ETH's been pretty strong, so I mean, not expecting it, but yeah, we'll see. I think even if it goes into the support, right, and this 290 like gets rejected by this 400 resistance, like $400 resistance, I think it's probably gonna get like a bounce from here just because it's such a big level. And if it then gets rejected higher, I think then you start getting worried, like if it gets back into the range. And then, I mean, all bets are off because that's a bad looking chart, right? This would be a really, really bad looking chart, I think. But not expecting it for now. I think it's probably gonna get rejected here just because it's strong resistance, and these monthly resistances have, at least like on the first test, have been doing really well, right? Like first test here, massive rally into resistance. First test of that resistance, massive move down. This is the second test of support that led to the breakout, and this is the first test of resistance, so could see a pullback from here. And like I said, if that ends up holding this support area, it's all good. If it doesn't, I will talk about that when it happens, or if it happens. How many closes beneath support would you observe before cutting a high time frame position on ETHUSD? I mean, if I were long, right? And I mean, I think if I longed this down here, and it's always easy in hindsight, right? But we talked about like longing at 100 on the stream. I was just fucking too dumb to do it. Whatever. I would have taken it off at the range high, right? So I would have already been pretty much out. And what I want to see is like closes above here to get back in, right? You want to see closes above 400 on the monthly basis to be actually bullish, like expecting this to hold. So for me, like if you bought the lows, I think you take resistance, you take support. You take profit. Jesus Christ, talking is hard. You take profit into these kind of levels and then reestablish higher. So I mean, you either do that, right? And I think that's the best way to go about it. Other than just being mega bullish ETH and you just want to have that long forever. If that's the case, just hold it. And then what Baxi asked about is like how many closes would you have to have in this range to get out of high time frame plays on ETH, right? And the fact is, like, if we get a close in here, like let's say we get a close like at 235 or something, the next candle is gonna be like at 170, like because really, like whenever you have like these big moves fully retrace, you're not gonna get like an easy chance to just kind of hop in. So the best that you can hope, I think, in that case is like an intra-month kind of retrace back into this resistance. So for me, just the first close below that range would probably be enough, just because it's such a high time frame thing. But yeah, I rarely get into that position because I usually take profits into resistance, which 400 or 395 is. But then again, like I would have taken profit into like 280, 290 resistance, and it's quite a bit above now. So that's the downside of it, of like taking taking profit into resistance, right? So it depends on how you play it. I think you don't want to see any close below 267. If that happens, I think it's going lower and heading for 180. But like I said, this is not necessarily something that I'm expecting right now. I just want to see how it reacts to the support. Yeah. But like I said, this is first test of resistance, so likely to get at least some sort of pullback, and we've already gotten some sort of pullback. It's just a question of how low does it go. And I mean, on the weekly time frame, you can kind of see how low it could go, because getting rejected here could easily go back to like 300, whatever. I think like go sideways here, maybe even take that high out again. Like if it's for some reason goes back up, doesn't seem likely with Bitcoin. Like if it wants to head lower, it doesn't seem likely to head higher first, because Bitcoin actually put in a topping pattern already. So if it heads higher, the Bitcoin topping pattern is invalidated and Bitcoin probably goes higher too. So this is something that we can talk about. So this could be the top, right? It's like a typical topping pattern, but if it isn't, we're probably just heading straight for the next resistance, which on the weekly time frame, where was it? Yeah, it's 13.8. So this is the next weekly resistance, right? And if that high here that we've just set gets invalidated, I think we just head straight there. That's why, like, if you're trying to like get short this, it's unlikely to take out that high again, which I usually like to see. Like I usually like these tops and then the retrace, take that high out and the wick and then go back down, right? So this kind of situation. And we've had that on Bitcoin, right? Sorry if I'm all over the place, but we've had that in Bitcoin, right? So you have a high here, take it out. Doesn't necessarily have to kind of do anything. Like the closes above, whatever, don't really matter too much. But yeah, so this is actually going to be interesting. This is one thing that you can watch today on the close, if it can kind of break that high, or if it cannot. Like if it holds it, it's probably going to bouncing tomorrow. If it doesn't, it's probably going to go lower tomorrow. But yeah, generally speaking, sorry for being all over the place. Like a pullback to 300 or something, 310 would make sense. And then you would want that to hold. And that would also be, that's weekly support, right? And it's also monthly support, like we said earlier, 300, 290, that area. Don, you need some sleep. Yeah, dude, it's been bad today. I've slept like 3 hours, it's completely all over the place. Excuse my, I mean, at least it's going to be somewhat entertaining to listen to, I hope anyway. Yeah. But this is confluent resistance right now, as you can see, right? So you have weekly resistance here, you have monthly resistance there. Daily resistance, not so much. Daily just isn't anything there, really. So yeah, it's going to be interesting to see it play out. I don't really want to short ETH just because like I missed that 400 short. But yeah. It's confluent on, and this is actually one of the things I like to watch. Like we talked about ETH USD being at weekly resistance and at monthly resistance, right? And something that's interesting is ETH BTC is also at monthly resistance here. And I mean, you can make that even longer, right? So ETH BTC at monthly resistance. So that's going to be an interesting close, right? Bulls want to see it close above. Bears want to see it close below. And also at weekly resistance, which we talked about when it was up there. So you have a confluence of ETH USD, weekly, monthly resistance, and ETH BTC at weekly and monthly resistance. So, I mean, if that doesn't stop it, right, nothing will, I think. So if it goes up from here, you're probably looking at this area, I think. So like let's say it breaks through, just probably gonna put like one big candle up there, and then you've retraced almost the entire bear market. So yeah, that's why like a lot of people would like to hold into that. I personally, like, I don't mind missing out on that. Like even if I, like, let's say you long the bottom and you're like at this resistance, like, oh shit, maybe I get like this big candle. That's completely fine if you're super bullish. I think you could just hold it. Just gotta be prepared that if you're wrong, you literally held the top and then you're not gonna get another good chance to sell. So either this is the top, like the top, and then we go lower, or we're probably gonna just go straight to 700. I don't see it go to 500 or something and then put in a top and then head lower. Someone said I can change the supports to green. Yeah, I mean, I'm just lazy, right? I barely, like, you get the point, right? It doesn't really mean, like, if this is red, I'm still gonna know that this is support. But if you guys need the color grading, that's fine by me. I'm happy to oblige. I shorted at ETH top. Good shit, man. Good shit. Done someday a live stream or Periscope, something beyond crypto about general life. I mean, all I do is like climb. I climb and hang out with friends, and that's it basically. So my life's currently, at least, very boring. It would have been really, really interesting, I think, if COVID didn't hit. Like I wanted to pretty much see the world. I had like 12 trips planned, pretty much one trip a month. And April was like an entire month of Japan. And then, I mean, I was in Morocco, in Finland, was planned to go to London again. And then, like, I want to see a bunch of shit, but COVID kind of put a stop to that. So if stuff opens up again, I might actually like do something, like do like a public, whatever the kids do nowadays, Instagram, Snapchat, I don't even know. I'm not up to date. I'd be fine sharing that, but I think right now my life's pretty boring. Do you trade full time and just climb? Yeah, I mean, I trade full time. If you can call it full time, right? I mean, I look at the charts like 4 hours a day. roughly, I'd say. And then like sometimes live stream, sometimes do whatever, and then just do whatever I want for the rest of the day or the week. Like my life's pretty carefree right now, which I really enjoy after having like a really stressful life in the early days. Litecoin, I don't even know like why I have suddenly like all this stuff on there. It's nice to see that worked in the past, but it's weird. This is still like one of the greatest public calls that I made in a long time. Like I was mega bullish down here on Litecoin, and I was like, okay, if it ever gets back up here, that's where the bears are sitting, right? And I literally wicked into it and I'm fucking doomed. With these altcoins, we didn't talk about those much last stream, because there's really not that much to talk about, right? If you're bullish, you're looking at this support, right? And I mean, you've had some buying into that support. If that gets taken out, you're probably going to get a capitulation candle and a pretty low one too, like a pretty deep wick. So that's something to watch out for if you're long these kind of altcoins. You don't want to see this get lost on a closing basis. And it's pretty much the same for any altcoin, really. Like Bitcoin Cash, you can even ignore this because it's so old now. What you really want to be watching is just this entire area. And a close above doesn't really mean much because it's such a bearish chart, right? It starts meaning something if you start reclaiming up here, right? So if it starts like changing direction, higher time frame, it would have to go all the way up there, I think. But this is something to watch out for, not because, okay, I want to be a buyer or something in the sideways, but because if it gets taken out and if you start closing below this significantly, it's probably going to wipe out pretty hard. And if it heads up from here and goes back above here, then you can easily play it at least to the first high if you're like conservative. But I think if it goes back up there, it's very likely to go all the way up there. So that's a nice ×2 if you get it. So that's what I'd be watching for those. But this isn't really a bullish chart. Like a lot of people saying like follow the trend, whatever on altcoins. Trend's been down on this, and it's been the same for Litecoin, and it's been the same. I mean, for XRP2, this is gonna be an interesting weekly close, just because it's actually one of the ones that has reclaimed something. So I'll be watching this, see if it can hold above weekly support. If it doesn't, I mean, that's rough luck. Not gonna get into it. If it does, I might actually punt something with like low size, because I'm not sold on the entire altcoin thing. But this is too good of a setup to not take, I think. Like if it closes this week above this support, right? The setup that I think you can play if you want to. And like I said, I'm not gonna risk too much on this. But like these kind of setups are usually pretty nice. And the good thing about this, right? This is a good like risk reward setup, whatever. Doesn't really matter how you want to call it. The good thing about this is the moment it starts creeping below that range low, you can just get out. So your risk's actually going to be like something like this. And then it's a really good trade, I think. This is something I'm going to watch. But in comparison, like Bitcoin Cash looks shit. I think Litecoin looks shit. ADA, not looking too terrible. Like I said, like the chart isn't bad. So we'll see about that. But I would definitely not want to be along because this was a lot of news-based stuff. So not interested in that. And then EOS looks absolute trash. This is actually one of the ones where you're starting to lose that kind of box. Not so far, so it's still fine. But if it starts closing like significantly lower than that, it's probably going to head for capitulation. And then, I mean, really, where do you want to see that go, right? You can go to... Oh, that's actually nice. I like that. It can go down there, I think. And I've had this on my chart for ages. I think I made that chart, I think, in here or up here somewhere. So I think that's actually not a bad setup. Like if it starts capitulating, I think that's what I'm gonna take. Promoting Doge and TikTok. It's not what I do, but are you talking about like what young ones do these days? The comment from earlier, yeah. I mean, that's wouldn't be surprised really. I mean, like the TikTok stuff, but who knows if that's gonna stay legal, right? And I'm not gonna join it. Like, fuck that. How did you reach this point that you became so good at trading? Any tips that you might want to share? I mean, what do you do, right? In anything that you get good at. One, the thing that you're actually trying for has to kind of fit your personality, right? I mean, I don't know if anyone ever said that about trading, but it's just my opinion. But if you're just not built for this, you might just not be built for it, right? Like, let's say you're an impatient person that always has to have, like, you see something, you have to have it. It's going to be really, really hard to work on it. You can work on it, but it's going to cost you a lot. And it's going to cost you a lot of time. I mean, if you have that kind of stuff, you need to manage that first. So you have to kind of manage all your impulsiveness, your kind of getting like way too emotional about stuff. I mean, that's something that trading does really well. It shows you what you're really shit at and then makes you figure it out, because if you don't, you're just going to lose money, right? So one, I think you have to actually be built for it. And I mean, you're going to know that best. Like, are you actually someone that just does something like just because they want to, like, whatever, I don't really care style, right? You have to take it seriously, and you have to be built to take something that you do yourself seriously. If you're not built for that, I mean, you can work on it, I think, but it's going to be hard. But it's still going to be worthwhile working on it, because that's actually something that is good to have in general. Like, just being patient and being able to control your urges or whatever. It's actually not a bad thing to have, right? So I don't even know. I don't want to start writing, but that's the first point, right? So know yourself, know if you can do something like that or not. Some people have like this kind of gambling addiction and that they can't stop. And I think that's probably going to be really hard to combat. But yeah, it took me a while to realize I don't have to be in the trade 24/7. So I mean, I think everyone battles with that. And then second, you have to take it really seriously, right? So when I started out, and I mean, it's a little bit less so now because I feel like I've kind of got it figured out, but that's a bad attitude to have. But generally speaking, you have to take it really seriously. So what I mean by that is you spend a lot of time analyzing your mistakes. You spend a lot of time soul searching, see what you just do wrong, what you do right. You look at, I mean, that's something a lot of people do wrong too. Like, they just look at what the stuff that they do wrong, because it's not the only thing that you have to look at, right? It's as much important to look at what you're doing right, because if you figure out, okay, this is something that I do really well, you can actually make that into something that is worthwhile doing, right? So look at what you do well, what you do poorly, spend a lot of time doing that. And then generally speaking, spend a lot of time just looking at this shit, analyzing how you feel. Like, shit goes up straight, and it's nice. Like, for example, for me, and I still have that written down somewhere. I haven't really looked at it in a long time, but when it went up like this, I wrote how I felt every few days about this shit. Wrote it down so I can read it again, and then you have that kind of track. Like, when it goes completely crazy, you can kind of see, okay, how did I feel back then? So you have to you have to take it seriously. You have to kind of soul search, write everything down, and then you have to just spend a lot of time doing it, right? So for me, that's been I spent I didn't really sleep in 2017, just because the market was popping. I wouldn't want to do that anymore. Like, even if you got like these altcoins, like these major altcoins, like popping like times 3, times 4, I'd still try to get my like at least 7 hours of sleep a night. But back then I was just completely absorbed in this kind of stuff. And then, yeah. So for me, like those are the main things off the top of my head. Like, just keep working on yourself. And then what you also have to be really, really good at is just realizing that even like no matter how, like let's say you have a 10 win streak, right? You don't have to just kind of be, okay, I'm a god, I can do whatever now, because whenever that happens, people tend to lose. And I've known a lot of people that have like winning streaks for a year or 2 or 3, and then get overconfident and lose it all. So I just have like a cool head, and that's something, like I said, that you have to work on too. But yeah, it's just my little rant. But there's a lot of stuff that you have to work on. The best kind of thing that you can do is just trade a lot and then write down your thoughts, write down your feelings, write down your setups, write down everything. And then once it's done, you review it, no matter how hard it sucks. Like if you're wrong, if you're right, you review that stuff and then see how it goes. Kind of all season before, after Bitcoin all-time high, what do you think? It makes sense to me that we'll see majors rally before the all-time high because it's the play for the big boys. Like you not want to hold alts if Bitcoin moon. I think after all-time high makes a lot of sense. Like if you want to get like a true alt season, you have to get the biggest idiots on board. And I think like the alt season, or like whatever we have right now, I don't think it's an alt season. I think it's people just chasing stuff. Which isn't necessarily bad, right? It means that there's volatility, you have stuff to trade, right? But it's not an all season. We actually don't have, I think at least, the retail idiots that buy anything. We have like people chasing stuff that goes up, like a lot of traders actually looking into the DeFi stuff, and then they see, oh shit, this is going up, let's just buy it. So it's just traders trading against themselves, very little kind of idiot influence, whatever. My view anyway. And that's going to come in when Bitcoin makes all-time highs, I think. So I think it's going to be like a true old season, going to be at the highs. And the moment you get an old season where everything is going up, just fucking sell your Bitcoin and leave for another year or 2, I think. Because I think the next old season, if we get one, it's going to play out the exact same way. Because it just makes so much sense and it's so easy to do. Like to get, like distribute Bitcoin, to buy it back cheaper later, to dump altcoins on people. You can do it all in one go. And I mean, that's what we've seen in this entire range, right? People get absolutely smacked. And that's the thing with crypto, right? People get like overly enthusiastic when they shouldn't. Doesn't mean this has to be where it is, right? Like I said, retail hasn't really, like the people that are overly enthusiastic right now are traders, which isn't necessarily a bad thing, right? But the moment you start getting like everything starts to get hyped, and you actually get like all this crap pumping, it's usually a good time to just get out. And I'm expecting that to happen again. Like if you see all of these things like go back to all-time high, which I mean might or might not happen, but if it does, I think it's time to say goodbye for a year or 2. So yeah, that's that. Sorry for my rants. Hope you guys don't get bored, because I think I've said this stuff like a million times already. We've went through the list. We went through Bitcoin. Any other questions that we can talk about? Like I said, Friday is always a little bit more chill, so open to answer questions or like discuss stuff. And yeah, for the people that are just here for the TA, I think that's pretty much it. You can obviously ask for TA too, but I think we talked about most of this stuff. I'm actually glad that Kret's going to take over Monday, and we talked about the altcoins last stream. That was really good, I think. We talked about like Bitcoin and the majors this stream. So I think we've covered most of it. Do you do indoor, outdoor climbing most? Indoor, but I wish it was outdoor. Like the outdoor climbing that I do is a lot more fun. So... but obviously you have to, like, I don't do it that often because you have to, like, at least for me, I tend to go away for like a week or something, and just taking off a week during Corona season, not that easy. Best practices for keeping a trading journal, any software you find helpful. It really depends on you, right? So for me, just having like a pen and paper in front of me is kind of like, it's easier to just get everything out, like just writing on your own, write that down on a paper. But it's also like I've used Evernote. I've used a lot of stuff over the years. I don't really do it that much nowadays anymore. And I think that's a mistake. I think with the years you just get lazier and lazier, and it's something that I definitely have to work on. But yeah, I mean, even like there's people that actually take like super fine-tuned statistics and stuff. Like there's programs that do that. It's not necessarily my thing. But it's not a bad thing. So I'm not necessarily the best person to ask, but I like to just write it down by hand. It's kind of my way to get it all out like on a paper, and then you have it out of your head, and then you can look back at it later if you need to. Did you fire Cred? No. Like I said, Cred's just on holiday, and I have to take over, which is fine by me, completely fine. Don, don't you think if XRP BTC is bullish, it shouldn't give a good entry? So waiting 1 week isn't long for long setup. The thing why I'm completely fine with waiting is because I think there's a good chance that it's just bullshit, right? So if you look at the monthly, right, we're at resistance right now. So you have this range, however you want to draw it. We're retesting that from the underside, right? So it makes sense to be cautious. And if it's bullish, right, and it takes off straight from here, if it takes off straight from this area, that's fine with me. I don't mind missing this. Even more so while the other majors look terrible, right? So I have to have a good setup to take this, because I think the likelihood of, like, let's say we talk about this setup, right? The likelihood of this setup to play out, I'd say is like less than 50%, at least. So, I mean, for me, it has to be a really, really clear defined setup. And I think this week could just full retrace this entire move up. So I much rather be cautious. And if I get the setup and I just like stop out below here, it's fine too. That's pretty much, I think it's still a FOMO buy if you're buying here. But I'm fine doing that just because I don't have too much altcoin exposure, right? So if the setup is decent enough to take it, I'm fine taking it, like I said, lower size, just because I don't believe in the old season thing. I think we're not ready yet. But I'd be much happier if I took this setup and then we get like at least a tiny bump and I'm actually in something. So it's kind of like, it's the first bullish setup that we're getting on majors, I think, other than ETH. So it's fine to take it, but it has to be a decent setup. So I'm waiting for the close. So it's kind of my way of viewing it. You could obviously buy into support. Like we're literally at support right now. Like this is exactly where support is. So if you want to buy that, you can go ahead. Like I don't need to chase these positions just because I've got a lot of patience. And like I said, I think the altcoin market against Bitcoin anyway doesn't look so good that I have to kind of rush into it. Because anything, in general, like lately rushing into something didn't really pay off too much. Like most of the time, if you just waited for the close, you actually got clear confirmation if your setup's going to work or not. How to play breakouts, wait for the retest, or just trade when the candle closes? Good question. Like in this case, let's say this is a breakout, right? I waited for the retest here and it rewarded me. It really depends on your underlying thesis for the market, right? So for example, if you're looking at WeChain, I played that one so I can talk about it, right? So in this case, I was looking at this range, When was that? I was looking at this actually in here. Got this breakout, and I was like, okay, this could be the all-time low back then, right? So I was happy just buying the breakout, like the first candle close above, because I was like, okay, the altcoins, like the major altcoins, are at important high time frame supports, so I'm willing to take the breakout play, right? In this case, I just bought it. It closed above, it started breaking out, I just bought it, right? And then took it into resistance. Now I obviously look like an idiot because I sold into resistance and it's now like a good chunk higher. But then again, I didn't have to sit through this shit. I could have played the exact same setup the second time around too, right? So you get a close above and then just long it into resistance, or if you're like super greedy, long it higher. So in general, how I do it, am I bullish this market for whatever reason, right? And then you obviously have to have reasons. And if I'm bullish on a market and it does something like this, I'm willing to just buy it straight up. If I'm bearish or neutral on a market and it goes like this and it doesn't even like put a consolidation in for me to buy it, I might just wait. Or like, it always depends on the situation, right? It's not, okay, I'm always buying when it closes above the range, because something that often happens is that you get a close above the range. There's something like I said for Bitcoin, for example, that I was looking at, and then you dump back down, and that's actually the shake up before lower, right? So it has to kind of have this underlying, like your underlying idea of the market. If your underlying idea of the market is, okay, this market is bullish, it's going to go up, just buy it the moment it breaks out. If you have the underlying feeling that it's bearish, you wouldn't want to be buying the breakout, because then you would much rather play the range and just keep away from stuff like this, because this could just mean revert or just go back into the range, right? And if you're neutral in the market and you get a retest and the risk reward to the next resistance is nice, you can just play that. So in this case, for example, for XRP that we talked about, if I'm generally like expecting a lot of these altcoins to break down, so I'm leaning bearish, so I don't have to, like, if anything, I would play it from support to resistance if the risk reward is right. And in this case it is, so I could play it if I wanted to, right? But if it isn't, right, sometimes you get a breakout that goes much higher and your invalidation is much further away, then I wouldn't play it. But like in this case, still, like I said, I don't have to, like I'd be completely fine missing out on this, just because like looking at Bitcoin Cash, looking at EOS, I think there's a good likelihood that the majors market anyway breaks down. So yeah, depends. I know that doesn't really help you much, but it really depends. So trading is never as easy as, okay, if it breaks out, I'm buying. I think people that do that, like that play the entire, like do the exact same thing no matter the market conditions, are gonna get wrecked in the long term. How's the Corona thing in Germany? I mean, it's okay, better than in a lot of other countries, but it's getting worse again. So we'll see how it goes, right? I hope it kind of stays low, because like Corona, like the first lockdown was really, really bad for me. Like I just noticed, like mentally, that was just not good. So I just hope it doesn't happen again, because yeah, if I'm locked in for like a month or two, it just go crazy. Do you trade Forex too? No, not anymore. I don't. Like, crypto is enough for me right now. If I find a market that I can actually like, that I find an edge in, and I think Forex is a market that you don't really have a low time frame edge in anyway. Like if you trade like monthly movements or whatever, I think you can still find edges, but low time frame I'd be very surprised. So doesn't really make much sense. Like if you're trading anything below the weekly, I think you're either a genius or you're just a lucky person. So, and I don't think I'm a genius. So I think like there's a good likelihood that I'm not smart enough to trade that market on the low time frames anyway. And then on the high time frames, I think crypto is still easier. So I like to focus on crypto. And if it dumps here, do you still think the lower part of the box is a good buy? Yeah, I think so. Like if it starts something here, I'm gonna try to pick some up down here. Like I think that's really like where you wanna be longing XRP. Don't like all in long down there though. Like there's a chance. I don't think it's a high chance, but I think there's like 5% that it just goes to zero. So if you're all in, you don't want to take a 5% chance of losing it all. But that's enough, like that's a good enough level for me to kind of risk it, because then you can target up here, or I think even up here, like in this area from down there. So that's a really good, I think it's a good risk to take, even though there is a risk of it going to zero, because if you then only risk like 1% or 2 or 3, if you're like starting to get like greedy or whatever, I think that 5% is going to be fine. Like if it goes to zero, you're going to hate it obviously, but it's not going to ruin you. So yeah, that's it. I think from me, I need some sleep and I need a shower, because I literally got home like 10-15 minutes before the stream started, didn't have enough time to shower, so super disgusting. But yeah, appreciate you coming by. Appreciate Bybit for sponsoring the show. Like I said earlier, they have a trading competition registering period going on right now. Trading competition actually starts in 4 days, I think, or 5 days. So yeah, check that out. Links are in the description. And yeah, thanks for coming by. Appreciate you hanging out as always, even on a Friday. So yeah, appreciate that. Thank you very much. Monday is gonna be cred again, so finally gonna be rid of me, and then Wednesday is just gonna be me again. So good old schedule returns for next week, and I think we're gonna get a guest next week too for Friday. So yeah. And oh yeah, Cred's on holiday, but I mean, he always reminds me to ask for likes. So if you feel like liking the video, do like the video. If you haven't subscribed for some reason, do that too. And yeah, see you guys next time. Bye bye.